We are we? Not much in the way of traction. Hi everybody, welcome to our PM drive on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, really incredible Saturday afternoon. The cloud has gone, the sun's come out, there's a blue sky, and despite the very, very cold temperatures that we had earlier today, we've actually turned into a really wonderful, warm, can't be called winter, it can't be called autumn, I think it could even be called the beginnings of spring, because I've seen things today that tell me that spring is on the way. And I think we're still going to get a little bit of cold weather. Welcome to the live drive. This is Thornybush Private Nature Reserve, and it is, no, I'm not going to say anything. It is open, it is undecided, it is all about what comes around the next corner, about what we're going to see this afternoon. There's nothing really on the cards. There's nothing I'm going to say, we're going to see this, we're going to see that. We're driving the live camera through the bush, and around every bend could be anything. So that's what we're going to do this afternoon. Hope you're going to join me. I hope we're going to be able to interact. I hope that we're going to be able to talk to each other through this medium of the World Wide Web and Internet. And you can send in questions, and you can ask me things about the animals that we see, and hopefully I can answer them for you. And that's at drivequestions at wildearth.tv, and who knows, see where discussions take us this afternoon. We're going to go and look for some animals, and hopefully we'll see something. We're going to be heading into the sun, hence like dark glasses. Sorry about that, it's like really bright out there, me and my hat and my shades, but we're going to have to head into the sun a little bit and see where it takes us. Come for the ride. Now, since this is well, it is a very unique situation, but not only that, it is a venture into an unknown field of broadcasting, in that we've got this Land Rover, we're driving around the bush, it's a live camera, and instead of this being a live camera at a particular fixed spot that pans, we've actually got the camera behind me, and we take the camera around, and I'm allowed to venture into parts unknown to show you some of Africa's wonderful and weirdest things. If we get to see them. Never a guarantee. It's what Africa's all about. But it requires your participation to some degree. So, anything you may have to offer or ask or query about what we do, you send it in, see what I can do about it. The gremlins that live in our system. Those little types, those little things that, yeah. Well, they struck again this morning. Eventually found, and it takes a while because we've got to go through the entire system piece by piece. Pete does it remotely from Cape Town with David, and between the two of them they actually managed to source a particular cable that had probably reached its sell-by date. Who would have thought cables have a sell-by date? They have a day when they say, I don't want to transmit that data anymore. so they shut down for whatever reason. Most incredible thing. Anyway, they replaced the cable, and lo and behold, we are able to join the rest of the world again. But you'll all be pleased to know that you didn't miss very much this morning. I was on some leopard tracks with one of the guides from one of the lodges, from Royal Malawan, Jonathan, and between the two of us, we established that those leopards didn't go anywhere from where they had made the kill yesterday, but they also had moved sufficiently that we couldn't find them. Done a few circles and things. Whether that makes sense or not. Black Dam Pride weren't found this morning. Guys were trying to find the ellies that I was so upset about yesterday, and well, the ellies did their bit to make me not feel so bad, because they managed to send those guys around in circles as well, and nobody could find them this morning. And yeah, elephants are really one of the easiest animals to track. But having said that, and having been sent on a wild goose chase looking for elephants, does that make sense? You can go on a wild goose chase looking for elephants? Then it's just you go on a wild elephant chase and you don't find elephants. Why does the goose? Where does the goose come in? Sorry, what is that?
No, that's fine.
We're reaching for the stick.
Yeah.
Ye of little faith. Yeah, I think I'm going to nail it this time. Sorry, we've got to go into the sun, because we've got to go up to where the elephants were and where there might be something to see. We've got to follow the river. So I'm going to attempt. Oh, yes. Get this antenna underneath.
Almost.
Okay. I could reverse and come back again and keep trying until I get it. Every now and then I do. If I don't stall it. So welcome to a Saturday afternoon in Africa. And hello, where are you? What are you doing? In what part of the world? Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Summer in most parts of the world. And hopefully there's some of you in South Africa too, other parts. I know we've had viewers from Bloemfontein and Randburg, Randfontein and Durban, especially Durban and Cape Town and Ulufantua Valley, Geneva. Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Kazakhstan. And if you think you're in a particular part of the world that's really, really special, send us a message and tell me why it's very special. I'll tell you why my world isn't special too. Oh, sorry. Wouldn't this have to be that at that very moment I lose power to my microphone, my earphone? And what? Oh. So it could be that the bit rate needs to be adjusted. The bit rate might be too high. So I don't really want to talk until I know that everything is okay, but okay, we seem stable now. Now ordinarily we keep drive questions at wildearth.tv for drive questions, but under the circumstances I'm going to ask one or two people to just send a message to Aaron at drive questions at wildearth.tv just to say everything's working and everything seems to be fine, because there's no real way that I can tell unless we get an email, and then every now and then if we don't have internet, then that's a moot point, because it doesn't work that way. But if everything's looking good, somebody could just say something to Aaron, Karen, any of our admin ladies, Pete. Oh, there's a big warthog. 2, 3, 4 warthog. Happy little family. Mom, dad, and 2 kids. Excellent. A couple of emails saying everything seems to be working fine, so I'm going ahead as though it all is working hunky-dory. Hello, Piglet. Don't have to run away, really, children. Well, they felt it necessary to run away. Saturday. Herd of Ellies are considerably west from us, a little bit further west, and I think there are a couple of guys following their tracks, and we'll try and make our way that way. We last saw them down here with you, and then after they were here, when I saw them with you, I saw them further down on the river with Aaron, and that was the first afternoon a couple of days ago when we lost signal and everything went haywire. Since then they've been south, they crossed the river, they've come back north, they've gone west. So far this afternoon, listening to the update, some buffalo, 2 boys fan, guys following up on the Black Dan Pride. Oh, so Jonathan's at Long One Dam, so I better not go there. Hang on, Aaron. In other words, he's going to Long One Dam. And that's got to be on top of our track. Well, we can't go anywhere further north, we can't go anywhere west because there's people tracking. And I've just found line tracks, so I'm going to go back south. So this is going to be difficult because I've driven up here and I wasn't really looking for line tracks, but I've just actually found them. So I'm going to be looking at some of these newly dug mitre drains. Mitre drains because they're at an angle off of the main road, much like a mitre cut in woodwork. It's an angular cut, and that is to take excessive rainwater off of the road so that it doesn't erode the roads the way we've had to deal with them. Anyways, the male lion walked down here sometime this morning, last night. Precious time and love. Interesting. So I found one of the boys, so this must be the other male. Don't have much chance of finding him. But he's on South Loop, so we can't even get to see him anyway. Don't need to listen to that much more. But excuse me folks, I'm just going to go and have a look in front of us. Some of the last tracks that I see are here of this male. All I need to see where he went and where he left the road. He might be under one of these bushes, in which case he might not be very happy with me walking around. I'll lose his track sort of at that third hump. I think he might have gone down into the riverbed. Funnily enough, where we last had those elephants, maybe we'll take a look down there, because he might have gone down where the elephants were digging. It is a nice little open patch. This is, however, the other male lion, the one that's not very friendly, the one that growls at us. Oh, money, yeah. Aaron, I've been out of the vehicle. Anything come in on your side? Okay. That's right. Well, sorry, Norm in Tennessee. I was talking about Norm asking if we could show the camps and everything. I don't know, maybe we can do something like that. Hope maybe we could. If not, just to take a camera around. But I don't know, it's protocol, and I'd have to get owner's permission, and you know, it's not like freedom of the press and all. There are implications of doing that. So the only way for us to do that would be to take a camera around the camp and sort of edit it and then put it as a clip somewhere. But other than that, there's no real way to do it live. Right, so this is where we had the elephant the other day, and I just wanted to come down here to see if the lion tracks are here. Sign of anything. Well, lots of things, but hard dealing with temperatures that change so radically during the day. Hot, just with a t-shirt under my shirt, and in an hour I'll be cold. Yo. Alice in Minnesota. Well, good afternoon to you, Alice. Wanting to know about monitor lizards. Do they stay near water? Can they stay out on drier land? Yes, they do. Both. Two different species. They do, yes. In this part of Africa we only have really two different species of monitor lizards. One of them that's dependent on water and one of them that's not dependent on water. And they have somewhat of a different morphology as well. They may be recognizable as being cousins or being monitor lizards because of their size, but actually when you get down to the physiology of it, different skull shapes, different diets, different lifestyles. Monitor lizard that lives in the water or along the rivers and in the lakes, and on the edges of any water really, is the Nile monitor. Lives to grow up to about, I don't know, about 2 meters, 6 feet, 7 feet. And they're quite destructive. They've got very, very long claws. They've got a very sleek body because they do swim a lot through the water. They use their tail to propel themselves like a crocodile. They tuck their legs on their need wet feet to feed. They can fish and frogs and stinker, and they can feed on things on land like birds' eggs and birds' chicks. And they're even known to feed on baby crocodiles and crocodile eggs. But they're not quite as bad as their Indonesian cousins, the Komodo dragon. Crystal. Nile monitors will still be quite formidable. They have a very powerful tail, and they do use it as a tool, as a weapon, as a defense mechanism. They whip it across the front of their opponent or their transgressor or their aggressor. And then we have the white throat monitor, sometimes called a banner monitor or a tree monitor or a rock monitor. Different names, same animal. Ultimately, that's why it's called white-throated monitor, and that is how it gets its scientific name. Varanus albigularis, albi meaning white, gularis meaning area. So the gula areas where the throat is, the gula pouch. Gularis, albigularis. So they're the white-throated. And they live in the woodland. They live in trees. They live in savanna. They live on rocks, in rocky outcrops. And while they do feed on birds' eggs and birds and even mice and snakes and other vertebrates that they can find on the ground, they're well known for their appetite for juvenile African land snails certain times of the year. When the rains first come and the juvenile snails start emerging after their first or second year under the ground. Somehow those monitors pick up their scent and dig them out, crunch them up, and relish them. But none of our African monitors or South African monitors are known to kill large prey like the Komodo dragons, their cousins from Indonesia, Varanus modoensis. This is Varanus niloticus and Varanus albigularis, our Varanii. I don't know how to pluralize Varanus Venus. Kudu. But those Komodo dragons actually have toxic saliva that helps to neutralize their prey, even to the size of big water buffalo. More kudu all around us right now. Oh, here's a nice spot. Oh, that was rather interesting. Might have just got the camera there just in time to see that. The younger female feeding in the face of an older female who just reacted to her. See if we can use gravity to get closer. Running away. Is there anyone on Mkonzo around Langwan Dam? Oh, anything bad? I just don't want to bump a guys that are landing in Mkonzo. Okay, stop it. I'll avoid it then. Hi, Ellen. That's a very interesting question. I'm not going to go too far up because there are guys that are following some tracks further up. So I'm going to stop here and listen for a little bit, and we're going to head further south. But there are some guys that are following some tracks. Don't want to intrude on their area because I don't want to drive over tracks if they're following them. It's always a pain when that happens. But Ellen in Illinois asking a question. I don't think so. Now I've forgotten. Everything slipped my mind because what I was hearing on the radio while I was trying to answer the question. Helen? Sorry, I'll get there in a second. Let's get through this dip because we might even lose signal through this dip. Stand by this please. Signal pretty steady. Oh, well that's pretty good. Okay, well then I'm thinking that we're going to lose it in this dip. So getting to Ellen's question. Ellen in Illinois. Ellen in Illinois. It's almost like a tongue twister. Sorry, Ellen. Quite an interesting question in terms of how the different seasons affect different animal behavior. Does it make it easier for predators to hunt? Does it make it harder? And of course the answer to that is yes, most certainly. But of course one of my classic responses is yes, it depends on a lot of factors. And one of the things that is perhaps the most important is the fitness of the predator versus the fitness of the prey. And that is something that varies throughout the season. So obviously in the summer months, you've got a time when the prey species, the herbivores, are eating a lot. They've got a lot of energy. The bush is a lot thicker, so yes, they can get away a lot easier, or not really. Just might be easier for them in the summer months, and then in the drier season when they're struggling to find the amount of nutrition that they need to survive, when their bodies are a little bit depleted, their ticks that are also sapping their energy, the bush is more open, it might make it easier for predators. But this is where the depends come in, because it depends. With leopard, for example, the thicker the bush, the softer the grasses, the more lush the vegetation, the easier it is for a leopard to get close to its prey. And in dry season, it's like lions' best time of the year because their color blends in with the grasses, and they're also able to stalk better. So I think things generally balance themselves out. There's obviously times towards the end of the dry season when the animal conditions are starting to weaken, or their condition isn't as good as it normally is. It does make it a lot easier for the predators. And then if a drought ever happens, it's during times of drought that it makes it, predators don't even need to use energy. They can literally just walk up to some of the animals that are starving and eat them. So at times that are plenty, it's harder for the predators, and at times when it's when it's necessary for animals to be dependent on water sources and dependent on certain areas, that's when the predators tend to make their living a lot easier. So most certainly there is a huge difference in the behavior of animals right throughout the year, depending on seasons, but it even goes even more deeper than that, in that even in one season when you get different weather conditions, those weather conditions become either beneficial or perhaps they hinder a predator, or vice versa. They might benefit the prey species, or there are times when it might hinder them, their concealment or their defense. So it's not really a seasonal thing. It's very much a weather thing. To some degree it's seasonal. To a large degree perhaps you could say it's seasonal, but also to some degree it is also dependent on the current weather of the time. I know, for example, how lion have waited until specific weather conditions to be able to hunt giraffe, because it makes it easier for them to bring the giraffe down, and once the giraffe is down, it's easier for them to kill it. So you have to imagine that every day that is different poses different challenges to every individual species, and in that is the very driving force of the survival of individuals, being able to adapt to all those changes, to be able to still survive depending on whatever changes the climate and the weather and conditions throw at you, drought or flood, and the fact that your genes then are the ones that you procreate with, and you produce strong offspring. So it's all about adaptability. It's all about being able to adapt to the changes that the weather and the environment and nature throw at you in your quest for survival, in your quest for either hunting food and having your prey species find the advantages or disadvantages depending on the weather, or being the prey species and having predators that are going to hunt you, and they're going to have a success depending on circumstances like weather and their fitness, and whether or not you're all healthy enough to run away from them so they can run themselves silly and never catch you. Never a plateau, never something that is a balance, never something that is the way it is. Every single day is different, and it's the ability of an animal to adapt and survive with those changes that happen every day. That's the one that procreates, and that's the one that spreads genes. And in our current climate, Levi's seem to be winning. So I hope that answers the question, really. BMX corner coming up. I don't know where to go from here because they're tracking animals there, tracking animals there. Let's go all the way down to 4 and span and wax the dam. Keep my pachyderms feeling a little bit sociable today. My pachyderm family. Yo. Yo. John. John in Massachusetts. John is saying that after Don. Okay. Hard hearing things correctly on the radio. Don saying he's booked a safari, 3 different lodges in the Kruger area for about 12 nights. Well, Don, it'll be interesting to know where you're going to visit, and be looking. Well, it would always be good if you're anywhere near where I am, then I'd be able to maybe come and visit or hook up with you, say hello, even for a few minutes. I thought I saw something. Right, walking up the road. Just a dark shadow. Well, Don, it's wonderful. I hope that you have a wonderful trip wherever you're going to be going. I have no doubt. I mean, it's the bush. 12 nights. You're going to have an amazing time. But just take a hint from the drive. Don't expect anything, and then you're going to see the most amazing things. And if you expect to see things, it's just going to end up like we do. We chase after leopard all day and we don't find them because we expect them to be there. Oh, more critters. So you can glance. Could do it in here, we're not going to see them. Hard to choose a direction this afternoon because there are people tracking animals and I can't interfere with their tracking. Come on. Could I have the locker at my door and gala, please? Can we go again? I'll be there, thanks. They might go to the dam, have a drink, food. Okay, I think we're going to go find a lion, folks. I think Yo. Ah, okay. Interesting question there. Carla and Tony from the Netherlands. We always seem to see more females than male antelopes. It actually does appear that way, doesn't it? Certainly does appear that way. What can I say to that? Well, to be honest, there's some mechanisms in nature that actually correct an imbalance. Well, I don't like to use the word imbalance because that implies that there's a balance, and that is a misperception entirely in its own, because there's no talk about the balance of nature. There's no such thing as a balance in nature. Please, if there's ever anything that needs to be in flux, needs to be unbalanced in nature, the day that nature is balanced, the day we can, well, the day when nothing survives. So there are times when there's some species of animals and there are too many females, they actually give birth to a lot of males and vice versa. I think kudu are even one of them. But obviously it's an impression that is created because we see small female groups and we tend not to see the large male group. The big male giraffe crossing the road. It's actually proving the opposite, because of late we've actually seen more male giraffes than we have female giraffes. But that just happens to be what we have hanging around at this particular juncture in time. Hello, old man giraffe. Bye, old man giraffe. I'm heading off to find a cat. Hopefully I can find it. I don't know. Maybe if we're lucky. I'm told there was a cat somewhere. So you're going to have to excuse me because somebody's going off the road for me. Excuse me folks, I'm just going to talk to somebody. Goedemiddag. Goedemiddag. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks. So, where was I? I don't know. But, call me on it later. So, broke off midpoint. I've got to change concentration completely. We're approaching a cat. A big one. I wonder if we shouldn't take the microphone off. Cats tend not to like it. Although this could be the young male from the Black Jam tribe. So, I don't know. Station with my Dorangala. Doesn't sound like anybody's there. So I'm hoping we're going to catch up with him, and I'm hoping that it's who I think it is, because there have been some changes in the dynamics of all of this. We'll see who it is. So it would be great if you want to know anything about a lion. Now's the time, because I'm going to be hopefully sitting with a lion in the next couple of seconds, minutes. Try that again. Any station with Madolangala? Oh, I didn't hear anything, so I'm assuming there's no one there. Stand by, I think I'm going to find this male. as we approach the junction. Now we're just south of Longwan Dam, and I'm hoping that maybe he will decide. Cheshire Road. I don't say Cheshire North or Cheshire South, but somewhere looking into this glare of a late Saturday afternoon sunshine, I'm seeing the golden hair and an ear of a big male lion, and here we are. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Saturday afternoon entertainment. We're going to spend the rest of the afternoon or as much time as we can with some big crocodile male lion, and hopefully we'll get into position just on the other side of him so we can see him better. So far he's not reacting to us. He's had a few vehicles viewing him, so he's probably aware that Thornybush, I can recognize him from behind now. Even he's doing the cat thing, but his back pretending not to notice us. Magnificent, absolutely beautiful. The right time of day, the most beautiful afternoon, Saturday afternoon. This Thornybush, look at this golden light. Absolutely beautiful. Who would have thunk that our afternoon would end up this way? So what we're sitting with here is the young male from this local pride that we call the Black Dam Pride. He's been separated from them for some time now, almost as though he's been trying to set out on his own. He did hook up with another male lion that came in from out of nowhere, and I think it's last night was one of the first nights that they've actually split up over the last couple of weeks. They've been together for a couple of weeks now, and I think they've split up so that he can maybe try and find his way back to mom and family. Who knows, just to hook up with them and connect with them before he goes back to this big old male. Maybe he wants to go and tell mom that he's found a buddy and he's going to go off and become this big bad boy lion with his buddy, and they're going to form a coalition and they're going to take over the world. But he's quite a remarkable young male. I mean, he's big. His footprints still belie his age because his footprints are still quite small, but in size, in stature, he's quite big. But his mane, I think it's his mane of all things that belies his age, because he's wearing the mane of about a 4-year-old lion and he's barely 3 years old himself. In fact, if we look really closely, we can see the color of his nose. It's still quite pink. Welcome to Africa, and Africa's so-called king of beasts. Aaron had a question. Okay, that's more of a technical thing from Clancy. I think I'll get to that later, Clancy. Heights and weights and measures about our signal range. Interesting that it's actually lying in the sun. Been quite a warm day, but perhaps typical of the cats this time of the day in the winter months. They know that it's going to get cold tonight, so use the warmth while you can. So what is interesting is that he's at that age where he's no longer really it's not that he's not allowed to hang out with mom and the cubs. It's not that he's being pushed away. It's just a case of his body clock, everything about him is a young male lion. There's nothing really for him hanging around with mom and the cubs and the sisters. And it is that age where he's got to strike out on his own. He's got to gain a lot of experience. He's got to encounter other males and have fights and gain strength and get scarred and get injured, and he's got to go through the trials and tribulations of a sub-adult before he can find his own way. And we were hoping that perhaps he had joined forces with this rogue male that had come. We can't call him a rogue, let's call him just a nomadic male that had walked into Thornybush. And the two of them, we found them feeding on a zebra. One of the first times we found them together. In fact, we were lucky. We were super lucky because we had seen him on his own for some time, and we were all speculating, what is happening with him? Why is he calling all the time? Why isn't his mother answering? And then after a while, he went back. He joined them on a giraffe kill. And then after the giraffe kill, it was almost as though that was a goodbye, and he left them, and he joined up then with this male. They killed a zebra together. Like, if that wasn't a bonding exercise, I mean, gee, kill a zebra with a male lion, that's surely got to set you up for life as your buddy, your best buddy. But the fact that they're not together right now means absolutely nothing. It could be temporary, it could be any number of things. We were looking for their tracks earlier, and I found the tracks of the other male. He is considerably bigger than this boy, so his tracks are very, very different. And so I know that he was heading south. In fact, he's headed towards camp. And I wouldn't be surprised. That's what I heard yesterday morning down near camp. It was him calling somewhere in the riverbed. Yes, Aaron, go ahead. See, I put him to sleep with my talking. Oh, that's an interesting question, actually. I mean, this is one of the wonderful things about being able to do what we do. Rachel, sitting over there in the US somewhere, how do you tell the difference between male and female lion tracks? And how can you tell how old a lion is? Well, Rachel, for the first few years of their life, it's actually not that easy to tell the difference between male and female tracks because they're the same size. I mean, young males are up to 2-3 years old, are pretty much the same size as their sisters. They only really start getting heavier. In fact, it's only in the last 6 months or so that he's probably been getting heavier than his sisters. So his tracks are starting to get a little bit bigger. But from now on, obviously, his tracks are going to be much bigger. If it's easy enough to explain it this way. Most men, humans, their hands are bigger than most women, humans. Yes, it's a generalization, but it's most. Very, very few women have bigger hands than men. And by the same token, very are in, and over time, over millions of years, that has dictated genetics. So you find areas like some parts of East Africa where there hasn't been the natural selection that has required bigger manes, or let's put it this way, natural selection hasn't included sexual selection by females, where the females have been choosy about what color or how big the mane is before they allow a male to mate with them or to take over the territory. Where those factors are not a key factor in mate selection for the females, you actually don't even get manes in some of the males. In fact, I've known adult males of 8 years old that have got not even a fraction of what this male has got around his neck up in Salou, and then of course there is a squirrel. And of course there is a famous maneless male lion up in Savo, the so-called man-eaters of Savo. They didn't have manes, they were both maneless males. So depends on the area. Kalahari and the Serengeti have manes. Their manes are big and black, and it's very evident that the females actually select the males with bigger and blacker manes. Kind of the tall, dark, handsome stranger syndrome, where dark is best. Go ahead, Aaron. Done. Coughing my lungs out. Not really. Don wanting to know how many prides there are in Thornybush and how many lions within the pride. Well, there are two main prides. I mean, there's the southern pride down here in the southern region of Thornybush that we call the Black Dam Pride. Consists of a big old female known as the Black Dam female, his mother, by the way, and you're going to start calling now, squirrel. Cat's been there all afternoon. I think somebody wants to come, and I've had the radio off. So it's the mother of him and his two sisters. He's got two sisters, and between his mother and his sisters, they've got four cubs. And then there's a pride up north, and I have to be honest, I don't really know what the composition is of the pride up north. I haven't really looked. Squirrel's now starting to complain. He's been there, but he's only just started now. He's been watching, but now he starts coloring. Okay. I'll have to get back to that in a bit. What's up to the dam? Bye. It is. Bread coming. Oké. Goedemiddag. Bedankt jezelf. Goed, goed. Ja. Thank you. Enjoy it, run. Well, at least we found a lion and he was a little bit awake for us when we got there. I'm hoping that maybe we can get back to see him shortly. I don't know how long those guys are going to stay with him, but we do have to be courteous when other vehicles are approaching. What? What's that about? Whatever. So, what was that last question, Aaron? Sorry, didn't get the name? Leanne. Sorry, Leanne. The lion's coats get thicker during the winter months. I haven't really got an answer for that. I'd assume yes, maybe a little bit. But we still have very hot days, so I can't imagine that it would. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we still have hot days. They don't need to get thicker, they don't have snow. We don't have like really severe cold. And the days are so hot that if they were to get thicker, then they'd overheat. So I can't really imagine that they get that much thicker. But I have to be honest with you, I've never really noticed it. And I've never really, well, not never really, I've never ever touched an animal. So, oh, look at that, there's a hippo out of the water, sleeping on the bank. What do you know? Sitting in the shade. Maybe if we'd hear earlier we would have caught it in the sun. Somebody was driving right down to the water. Who would do such a thing? But I don't think they get much. I mean, I've been asked regards to all the animals, whether they get thicker coats or not, I'm actually not sure, because it's hard to tell when you only observe them and you never touch them. And in cold weather they change the texture of their coats by the equivalent of us getting goosebumps. Their hair raises up and it increases the air in between the hairs and helps to insulate the body better. So I really don't know, Leanne. Something you can find out for me, and I'm willing to learn from you for a change. If you can find out for me, but be careful here, because maybe in some places like the Kalahari and the Serengeti, in places where it does really get cold in winter, maybe that's different. So it'd be interesting to find out about the animals here in Kruger, and in particular the lion here of the Kruger region, whether their coats vary during the winter months. I refuse to guess at an answer, so I'm just saying I don't know. Go ahead. Norm. I think Norm's in Tennessee. Norm's asking if a lion has any enemies. Well, yes, they do, Norm. Actually, lions do have a few enemies. Obviously, the older they get and the difference between males and females makes that is a huge thing. But first of all, lion are their own enemies. Lion is one of the only things that control the populations of lion, and it's that interaction, it's that whole dynamics about lion controlling prides and controlling territories, and with new males taking over, killing cubs and sometimes killing females. So generally lion are perhaps their own enemies. Unfortunately, and this is a huge, very big unfortunately, us humans have become a very big factor in their lives, and we humans are destroying lions at an alarming rate. We think that they're farmable animals to be just exploited, so yes, we're destroying the lion population of Africa. Natural enemies, hyena to some extent. Hyena will kill cubs if they find them. If lioness has got cubs and she goes off and she goes hunting, she leaves the cubs behind. If a leopard or anything else, if a leopard, buffalo, elephant, hyena, other lions, they find lion cubs, especially little ones, they're likely to kill them. So yes, there are a number of enemies of lion as youngsters, as cubs, and then obviously as they get older and they live within an established pride, that changes the dynamics a lot, because then they don't have the same sort of level of predation. But that is when they become their own worst enemies, and that lion fight, and they're likely to kill each other in fighting for territory and access to prey and access to territory. And it's not unusual for a lone lioness or a lone lion to be cornered by a pack of hyena and torn to shreds. That happens, they're enemies. So the answer, yes, most certainly. Norm? Lions are not immune. They're not the kings that everybody makes them out to be. Disney and everywhere else, the lion is the king of the jungle. First of all, we don't even have jungle, but second of all, lion is not king. Lion is confined to his territory. In fact, the lionesses are confined to their territory, which is actually they give the male impression that he's the one that rules their territory, and yes, he does. He defends it from other males, and he ensures that the offspring that he has procured from those produced from those females, he ensures their survival by fighting off other males. But ultimately, they're confined to a specific area. If you want a true king of African bushveld, there's just no question. The elephant. No doubt about it. He can go anywhere he wants. And everything moves out of his way. And he knows it. What beautiful life. What's happening with that lion? I'd like to go back and see him, or I'd like him to come up here and drink some of this water. Go ahead. Yo. Christopher, throwing a spanner in the works there, Christopher. Hello, Christopher. Where's Christopher from? Aronovich. How large are lion prides? Doesn't say. Need to know where you're from. I'd say the UK. My guess. Hazard a guess. Christopher is asking. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a look at that reflection of that hippo. Even though we're talking about lion, get it in my hat. How large can lion prides be? And do the males stay with one pride, or can they be dominant over multiple prides? It depends. And I think Christopher probably designed that question to make sure that I first started that answer with it depends, because gee, it depends on so many factors. It is unusual for a lion pride to get very, very big in the sizes of some of the mega prides of the past and some of the mega prides that still exist today. Some in Kruger up to 20, 30 lion. It's impractical for a lion pride to be so big. They need things like hippo and elephant and buffalo and giraffe on a daily basis to feed that many lions. So it's not sustainable to be in a very big pride. But prides can be big. It would take too long to list all the influencing factors on what determines the pride or the size of a pride of lion, but there are so many things that it's not really an easy question to answer. I mean, for example, you might have a situation where you have a pride with a bunch of females and they've all got cubs, and your numbers are 15, 16, even up to 20 with all the cubs. And a coalition of males come in and they kill all the cubs, and suddenly from a pride of 20 you're down to 5, back to the females. And then some of them get old and they die, or they get killed, so you're back suddenly down to 2 females. And then they're trying to struggle to raise cubs, so you might get 3 or 4 or 6 cubs. It fluctuates. I think one of the most important points that I could ever make about nature is that nothing is ever the same. Nothing ever stays the same. Thank you for that input, Hippo. That was much appreciated. Quite agreed with me. Nothing stays the same. Got a good comment from the Hippo there. And don't ask me to translate that, because it's between me and the Hippo. Sometimes prides can reach fairly large numbers, and then strange circumstances can drop the numbers down, so it varies. And as to the part of the question is whether males will father cubs in one pride and move on to another, no, that's not really possible, because they have to invest so much in not only taking over a territory, but also in establishing their dominance within that territory, improving to the females that they're dominant enough or that they're strong enough to withhold that territory and rather withstand attack from other males. You know, females are not, they know all about this whole struggle amongst the males to with all the macho and must-own syndrome. That female lionesses won't really produce cubs until they know that the males are there to stay long enough till those cubs are at least 3 years old, like this little boy that we're just seeing now, long enough that their cubs can reach that age and not be killed by incoming males, be strong enough to look after the territory so that cubs that are born to them can be ensured survival, because it's very well known amongst lions, having had it for millions of years, that incoming males are likely to kill the cubs and take over. So in that process, females try to trick males into maintaining an allegiance, into settling down by allowing them to falsely mate with them, basically coming into a false estrus and ensuring that the males are kept interested in a way so that they establish territory, and then if they stay, there's a good chance that they're strong enough and that they can father those cubs and they can protect those cubs until those cubs are old enough to look after themselves and they're not going to be killed by incoming males. So much goes into that, and there's such a short period of time that an adult male lion has where he can take over a territory. He can go through this grueling process of being accepted by the females and then sire his own cubs, because you've got to, let's face it, once he sires cubs with the females, and they generally do come into estrus at the same time, once he sires cubs with those females, there's not really much for him to do in terms of his kingly duties for a couple of years, other than making sure that his offspring survives, and that is actually what he does. He'll patrol his territory, he'll vehemently defend his territory, and he'll ensure that no other males come in to take over and kill his cubs. So there's no time for him to go off and find another pride and sire some cubs from another pride and do the same thing with them. It's vital that he focuses all his energy and all of his time on a specific pride and raising the offspring that he sires and protecting them against other males, because before he knows it, he's a washed up old has-been and there are new kids on the block and he's got to move out. Such is the life of the lion, and they call him king, but there are kings that are overthrown all the time. And on that note, I think let's leave this grumping hippo flat on the side, fast asleep. Let's see who's with those lions. Hang on a sec. Hannes, come in. Flores, come in. Any station with Mandela in Ghana? Okay, I tried. Not like that, it's not through lack of trying. That's interesting, Clancy. That's actually quite an interesting question. Clancy in Ohio. Does diet influence the growth of horns and manes and things in African animals like it does in the white-tailed deer and the antlers of the white-tailed deer, where their diet translates into the size of their antlers? And whether that is the case in the diet of a lion and with regards to its mane, or the antelope here with regards to the size of their horns. And the answer to that is simply no. Absolutely not. I don't believe so. since horn growth is concomitant with age, antelope, their horns are a specific size at a specific age. They have a rate of growth that is also concomitant with the growth of their bodies and the rest of their bones, because it's part of the skull. That has nothing to do with the diet. What does maybe have a lot to do with the diet is the thickness and the quality of the horny covering of the chitinous cover. Much the same as our diet translates into how well our fingernails grow. I have no doubt that the diet of the antelope translates into the quality, the health of the horny covering of the horns. And as far as lion, that's all genetic. That's all genetic. That's got nothing to. They can eat kudu and impala and giraffe and zebra till they're blue in the face. If you don't have the big genes, or rather the genes for a big mane, doesn't matter how many zebra, giraffe you eat, you ain't gonna get a big mane. You're stuck with your genes, like I am. I'm not gonna get a six-pack. I'm not gonna get a Schwarzenegger body. Okay, bad example, because I suppose diet could play a role there. When I was a kid, diet could have played a role. But no, genes. I'm just a short. Never mind. I am who I am because of my genetic history. I dare say that's where the line is. Hard to get someone on the radio, but was that Hannes? No. Station with Ngala. Did ignore Mark Day. Oh, that's interesting. Big Bend on Central Cutline. The rest of the Black Dam tried and killed a kudu up north. So far doesn't look like that line is moving. But he's not far from the dam actually. It could have, should have stayed there. Stand by this. seems to be 2 vehicles there, so I guess we've got to go past. So we can't go back in there. I tried calling, nobody answered. Seems they've pushed this lion into the bush, probably by trying to get too close to him. So, head on down south. House. It's like there's 3 vehicles there. Okay, well we better get out of the area. Anyway, need a pencil. Okay, Aaron, what do you got for me? Because it doesn't seem like we're going to get back to that line. Hello, Auntie Vivian. Hello, Vivian. In good old Chicago. Vivian's saying after getting so wrapped up in the lives of Karula, it's nice to sort of get involved in the life of another cat. Different. And that he's this little boy, and we're following what his path is now. This time of his life when he's setting out on his own. Hopefully we can get to see a little bit more of him before the drive's end. I agree with you, Vivian. That is actually a blessing, because I think, if anything, we never used to get to see Lion that much at Juma either. Well, there were times we did. We saw them often. Oh, hello, Nyala Bull, and a giraffe up the drive, up the that's actually quite a nice shot, distance shot. Let's get up a little bit higher, so we can see more of her legs. Come on, Nyala Bull, going off into the bush. There we go, actually it looks like it could be a big bull. It might be nice for like a really distant shot of this giraffe on this lonely road. Big old bull. Yeah, boy. Oh, moved off of the road. But Deer was asking a question if lion climb trees, and I was saying earlier that hyena can attack lion. Why can't they just climb a tree? Pretty much, yeah, it's their bulk. It's the size of lion that prevents them from climbing trees as adeptly as leopard can. That's not to say that they don't. I've seen lion in trees fairly often in my lifetime. There are areas where lions spend a lot of time in trees. They're well known in Lake Manyara National Park up in northern Tanzania, and we had a particular pride down in the southeastern part of Tanzania in the Selous Game Reserve. We had a pride where a couple of the females and youngsters would climb trees on a very, very hot day to get out of the way of the tsetse flies and get into a bit of a breeze. But they were individuals. They were specific individuals that endured. No, that's not the right word. They just found it easier to climb trees than others, or they preferred to be in trees than others. But generally speaking, especially big males and especially older females, Gotta remember, these are very heavy cats. They're very, very big cats, and a lot of the trees they're not really that great for very heavy cats to be able to grip onto. The weight of the cat tears their nails out of the bark. There are trees, however, there are always circumstances that allow a lion to climb when a tree is being pushed over at an angle, or there's a dead tree that has fallen over. But in terms of a vertical climb, it becomes harder for lion, even though sometimes you see those huge biceps, those big shoulder muscles in a lioness that is able to bring down a buffalo, yet it's not really that easy to haul herself up a tree. And when it comes to being attacked by hyena, it's normally in a kill situation. There's no time for them to get up a tree. Leopard are far more alert, and they're just a lot more able to climb even the smallest of trees. They're very adept. They've got tails that help balance themselves in trees. Lion are just not that at home in trees. And when it comes to being attacked by hyena, it's all a numbers game, really. It's all about, if there are a lot of hyena and there's only one or two lion, the hyena will take a chance. But somewhere along the line, somebody taught them how to count. So sometimes when hyena are outnumbered, they're not likely to attack. Just heard a purple-crested taraka. So we missed sunset. Time to head on back south. See what else we can find. Hello, Don. Following up on this talk about antlers and horns and antelope and deer, what Don was asking if there are any African animals that lose their horns like antelope, or rather like deer. Porcupine quill, but it's been flattened by cars. No, Don. There are some deer up in North Africa that have come across from Europe. Roe deer, I think, one of them. Maybe some of the European deer. There are fallow deer in South Africa that have become feral. Obviously, they're not naturally occurring. There are some deer that have been brought here by unscrupulous people for hunting purposes, and they've become wild. They've found favorable conditions, so they've become wild and feral, and they're in numbers of burgeoning. But in terms of indigenous animals in Africa, no, none. Wonder what was there. No antler bearing animals that lose their antlers, and horned animals that keep their horns forever and ever and ever unless they break. And the most bizarre thing happened. Hello, little boy. Hello, big boy. Okay, relax, dude, relax. Same big old dark giraffe. Sorry, kind of caught him in that in a bit of bush that he wouldn't have been able to get through. He needed to come back into the open to feel more relaxed. Yes, hide behind the guarri bush. Wonderful. Now, I can't see your legs, so I can't see you. Don't lick your nose in my general direction. Thank you, Twigger. Sorry to disturb you, Squire. So is that it? Is that our Saturday? For questions and things. Well, it's been a great evening, Saturday afternoon. Had some really nice questions come in. I like it when I get to talk about things and get my mind working. Sometimes I just tend to keep it all in. My mind is working all the time, but it's nice to give it a bit of direction with a question from time to time, and for me to fill out a little bit of something that I hope enlightens the world and tells people a few things about what makes my life, or what has meaning, so much meaning to my life, what is the very thing that keeps me going, driving force behind my existence, the reason why I want to wake up every morning. And being able to bring it to you and having this lovely interaction with you, getting to know a bunch of new people and nice people, a lot of people from when they were doing this before. I hope you've enjoyed the afternoon. I'm sorry we only spent a few minutes with the lion, but such is the life of the safari vehicle. You're allowed a certain amount of time, and then other vehicles want to come and watch it. And we can't allow too many vehicles to crowd these animals, so we only allow 2 vehicles at a time, and that of course dictates to short periods of time with these animals. And it's only every now and then that we're very lucky to be able to spend extensive amounts of time with things when nobody else is coming to view them. I was hoping that would be the case with that lion, but I think those vehicles that were there were both hoping that he'd move up towards the dam, and they were following him there, so I couldn't stay. But tomorrow is another day. Yebo. Father Tony Shorten. The adult males get killed more often in rutting season. Antelope. I wonder, is that Carla? Which Carla is that? Yes, funnily enough, Netherlands. Funnily enough, yes, they do, guys. Very often, especially with their father, and they get so intense on their rutting, and they get so focused on chasing other males away and herding the females. First of all, they lose condition. That's another thing I wanted to bring into the discussion earlier, was that mating has a big role to play in what condition an animal is in, because we know it's fun, but you've got to maintain your body weight, and when you lose it, you become game to being overthrown as king of the hill. So both in terms of adult males being the dominant male within a harem, as well as males in the bachelor herds who are so busy rutting, they're so busy sparring, and their horns are locked, and they're so busy trying to prove a point to the other male, because testosterone levels are high and their females in estrus, and it's all about wanting to spread their genes, excuse the pun. But sometimes the leopard just sneak up on them quite easily. Not only leopard, lion too, cheetah too. So yes, interesting question, because you're quite right, it does make a big difference. Because males get so single-mindedly obsessed with fighting the other male, they don't see the predator. Looks like they started fixing some roads down here. Finally. Luckily, just in time for us to leave. Now look at this, we've got smooth roads down here on the river. And look at me, sun's gone down and I'm still in short sleeve. Yebo. Clancy wants to know how many quills I have in my collection now. Well, there are a few in the dashboard, Clancy. They come and go. I've had at home, I've had probably a whole porcupine full of quills in a clay bowl. But people come and visit and they take a few. Just recently I sent some to a friend for her niece for her birthday, because she wanted to do an art project with them. And they come and go. Just a memento. Sadly, I don't think I can send them overseas. That's too much. Not wise. But I used to have a lot of quills and a lot of feathers. I used to have so many feathers from all the walks that I did. I had several different displays. I put them into that forest foam we call we call it oasis. I don't know what you call it elsewhere in the world, but in South Africa we call it oasis. It's like this green spongy material that you use for floral arrangements. And I used to put, instead of flowers, I used to fan feathers from the largest at the back, from the big marabou and vulture and stork primary feathers to the primary feathers of smaller birds in the front. It was like this beautiful big display of larger, smaller, right down to very tiny feathers. Quite impressive. And eventually I had so many feathers that there was one that was just the blacks and whites. There was another display that was all the feathers with blues, and there was another display with all the feathers with reds in them, and another display with all the owl type feathers with all the different colors of shades of brown and white and mottled, and the kind of thing that you get with the owls and nightjars and francolins and bustards and things. But feathers don't last long because they're parasites that eat them. The way nature is, that there's something to consume everything. That for whatever nature produces, there's something to eat it and break it down so that it gets put back into the soil. And well, feathers get eaten over time. Coming this way is easy. I don't even need to look coming this way. Going back there, although I suppose what I should try is reverse. Well, I want to wish everybody a super weekend. Wherever you may be, whichever part of the planet you're on. I'll be here again my Sunday morning, whatever time it is for you, so be it. Sunday afternoon for the east, Sunday morning for the west, midnight for others. But I'll be back 6:30 Central African time tomorrow morning. I think it's about time. It's looking like it's getting gone. And look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Sharing more of what we have here with you. On camera, Aaron NFC, the rest of the crew, and me. Bye bye everybody.